The past 24 hours have been rough. I wholeheartedly want to be a mental health advocate. I want to get back to leading and inspiring others. And I have always felt the way to do that is to not be fake. And that's where it's been tough, because, do I do the podcast? Do I speak up about things when really I just want to move on? I just want to move forward. But how is that good for anybody? Because then you start following me and you start doing stuff, and then they're like, hey, this person said X, Y, and Z, or, this is the story about you. Where's the truth to that? Are you really an honest person? And so you got to get out there and you got to say stuff, and you got to relive stuff you really don't want to relive. Now, I'm not making excuses, but when I went into that podcast, I wasn't mentally thinking about saying my story at all. We had already discussed topics, everything else, and it was like, oh, snap. You got out at 17 years as a sergeant? You're the story. Like, let's go in. And they said, are you willing to talk about it? And I was like, yeah. Now, it's not that I'm sitting there and I'm trying to deflect questions, even though obviously that's how it comes off. I don't want to sit here on social media and everybody start exposing their dirty laundry. We all got to move on. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're going to have the sergeant involved on their podcast, but the guy's doing stuff, man. He's trying to do MMA fighting. He's coaching. Like, the dude's doing stuff. So why do I want to jump in and discuss everything that he did wrong or we had a conflict with when he's doing a positive impact in his community? This ain't about me and him. I don't give a shit. I'm okay. Like, I've moved past. I've talked to the guy. And I understand that it may have come off wrong on the podcast, and that's something that I even discussed with him. I said, there's some stuff I kind of cringed on, but I was like, because it's hard for me to sometimes speak, because I'll be honest with you, this is why I don't want to chase being a comedian. A lot of people are soft-minded. And I honestly don't know how to talk, and this is part of the reason that I've had a lot of mental problems over the last year. Because you say something and high into the right, you suck, you're canceled, you're whatever. And it's like, we are so damn soft. And so it gets hard on how you try to speak. Like, for me, I'm a fire and forget. That is who I am. That's who I've been. For better or worse. I have said way worse things than I ever did in Hawaii. But I couldn't tell you exactly what they were. I do know that there was a Marine that when I was a corporal, I used to call a walking abortion. And I know somebody out there is like, yeah, it's good that guy got busted down, because nobody needs a leader like that. Yeah. But then these are some of the same people that jump online and they're like, oh, the Marine Corps became woke. It's not the Marine Corps I know. So it's like, where's your balance? And it becomes a struggle as a leader. I came in 2004, got talked to, did things, said things. There was different things that were done a certain way, and that changed. But I also saw how successful we were, and then I saw how unsuccessful certain things were. And it's hard to adjust fire when that's the way it worked. Well, the other one is about building resiliency. You know, I hope that I never beat somebody down so hard that, you know, their depression and everything else got to a point that they couldn't control. But I was trying to build resilient young men and women. And it's the same thing I used to do when I coached youth basketball. Because that resiliency is what's going to help you at the end of the day when you're by yourself and you're dealing with everything. So it's been tough because, you know, you get these keyboard warriors and they be saying some stuff and it's like, bro, you don't even know me. And then one apparently was one of my Marines that was down there during this time, you know, and it's just like, you just, you know, a piece of shit. And I'm like, you know, it's hard not to take that personal. But at the same time, that's why I said, do we really want to sit there and throw out everybody's dirty laundry? Do we really want to sit there and discuss everything that could have happened? I don't sit there and say that those 3 Marines did things to get NJP'd to like make them look bad, even though obviously that's how it looks and is perceived. I say that basically to go, I made a choice as a leader not to NJP these Marines. And they weren't the only ones that I could have NJP'd. But I didn't, and I chose not to. And I'm sorry if I hurt your little feelings because I said that you weren't doing what you should have done to be the rank that you were or being the person that you should be. And I'm sorry if I said that in public. I get it. Praise in public, shame in private. I got it. My thing was, if you talk publicly about stuff, I'm gonna call you out. If you're gonna beat your chest out in public, I'm gonna call you out. Because I want you to stay humble at the end of the day. And I know sometimes I gotta take a piece of my own humble pie. But I have so many people coming at me sideways, and it's just like I'm having to do everything to restrain other things going on, you know? And then the other one is, I'll be honest, I haven't completely watched the podcast like I should. But the other problem that you run into is language. And what I mean by language is, quite simply, one of my charges was an assault. There is no getting around on how you react to that. There isn't. When I hear assault, I cringe. It doesn't matter the reasoning or the level of assault. It was an assault, right? And so it's hard for me to verbalize that because I know how you're taking it. You know, you throw the word out there and you're like, I can't bring it back. I can't bring it back. You know, I mean, basically the quick story is, when I first got there, this Marine had just got it awarded his green belt. And I said, you know, jokingly, I was like, hey, back in the day, you know, when you got your belt, you took on somebody the same belt, you know, to show that you earned it or whatever. And he tapped me out. It was what it was. But I mean, we'd kind of do like this McMap thing to each other as we, you know, pass each other by the hall every now and then, you know, it was whatever. And then he came back from deployment and I did the same thing. And he just had a different look on his face. And I was like, my bad. Apparently, I've crossed some line. I've bothered you too much. I got it. My bad. Now, should I have ever put myself in that situation? No. Hindsight is 20/20. But, you know, I'm also sitting there watching my Marines spar with each other on the deck. You know, I mean, this is something that they would do. I think I like walked into it when I first got down to that post office. I had a couple of MCMAP instructors that worked for me. You know, so again, you know, my bad. Apparently, you know, I was the wrong guy. I did the wrong thing. I'm the bad staff NCO, the bad guy. You know, another one is walking in to, so another one, because again, I don't know what's going to get opened up now. I mean, now we're just trying to open up a can of worms. And part of me is like, all right, well, how far do we want to go down the rabbit hole? You know, I know one of them was a big complaint because I took a piece of registered mail and hid it. Now, obviously, a lot of you may not know how registered mail works, but we call that jail mail. It's high value mail. It's in a locked cage and it's supposed to stay secured all the time. And I did what has been done to me before. A little different though. What's been done to me before is you leave the red cage unsecured, the person grabs registered mail and takes it somewhere out, hides it somewhere, whatever, you're freaking out. This is to teach you, you know, obviously to be aware and the door locked. But I also know that's a gray area, you know, because yeah, you're teaching that person a lesson, but you also took it out of the registered mail cage. So even though you're trying to fix the one person, now you're kind of in trouble, blah, 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 blah. So for me, I just put it in a drawer that was in one of the drawers of the red cage. And I mean, it took the Marine an extra hour or two to find it. But the alternative to that is I do a paper trail. I write a counseling, or I could go straight to NJP or a page 11 or any of that. You know, I'm like, no, we'll just do this and hopefully they learn from that. And especially with this particular Marine, they already had negative paperwork on them. And I wasn't trying to add to that. That's what kills me. Some of these Marines already had negative paperwork, and some of them were talking about re-enlisting and stuff. Well, hello, if I sit there and I start doing more negative paperwork to you, you're not going to re-enlist. But then who's the bad guy? The staff NCO is the bad guy. No, you just ain't doing the right job. There was another incident where we had a running contest, and I ran into the post office just to check it out, see what was going on, and there was nobody. And the back doors were wide open. Say what? What? Usually we had like at least one Marine that was broken, you know, light duty or whatever, so they would stay back. And then if all our Marines were healthy, we usually at least had one Marine that would stay back, watch the mail. Everybody would change over, and then that Marine could go and change over. But they had decided to PT and leave all the mail right in the back door. And I mean, mind you, we're right over there by the McDonald's and the church and all that. I mean, there's people that would cross our back parking lot to use it as a shortcut from the McDonald's to the church to the other units. I would just see Marines sometimes cross by there. So, I mean, it is wide open in the morning and it's just sitting there. So, I mean, I push the mail into, you know, the mail head and into the front lobby and stuff like that. So when they came, you know, like they freaked out at first, like, oh my God, where did the mail go? And then they sorted it and whatever. But it's like, okay, that's a security issue. Again, here becomes the difference between today's Corps and the old Corps, I guess. And I hate to say it like that. And again, I'm not saying that I was right. But this, to me, is where I feel like it's a good lesson for junior Marines. The question I have now, hindsight, is do I write up everybody? Do I write up just a particular group of people? Either way, there's paper involved, or we play a game, I guess. We play a game, slap on the wrist, bad Marines, and we move on. So, there was that. And then even just speaking of the running competition, they started off strong. They were doing great. I was proud of them. They were one of the top teams there for a while, and we were the only ones seriously working during COVID, and I knew that, and they were still putting in the time to go run. And then they just gave up, right? And so I think the command gave the winning team either a 72 or a 96, right? And we would have figured it out. We would have figured it out amongst ourselves to give these Marines some time off. But, they're sitting there and they're like, we're not getting time off, and IPAC's off, and this shop's off. And it's like, I'm sorry that this MOS is not allowing you your time off. I'm sorry. The other one that I don't think the Marines seem to have realized or even cared about is, at the time, the city right outside of Kanoa Bay. Thank you. I'm sorry that I did not pronounce Kanoa Bay when we did the podcast. K-Bay. Just because I know that I may butcher the bay's name, so that's the reason why I said K-Bay. But I digress. Anyways, the city right out of it is Kailua. And Kailua had the most amount of COVID cases. So why am I going to take any of our postal services away and push people out in town that've got kids and all that other stuff when that's the hotbed for COVID? So of course I'm going to keep us a full crew. Of course I'm going to keep us pushing through all this. And it was complaint after complaint after complaint from the Marines. And it just got really hard to deal with. And they were still not doing enough in the chief warrant officer's eyes. There was still things that he wanted done. So not only do I have, the Marines feeling one type of way, but I have the chief warrant officer, really pushing for them to do other stuff. And I'm like, sir, I'm not trying to throw paperwork at them. I'm not trying to constantly keep them busy. I'm just trying to grind through COVID. We have no idea how long COVID is going to go. I know a lot of things that Marines wanted to do after work were no longer able to do. Sports was taken away. The gym was a lot harder to get to. Everything was really on lockdown out there in Hawaii. So why do I want to add more stress? And so I'm getting that heat. And then obviously in my personal life, things were really starting to go downhill with my ex-wife and I. And it was just a combination of a lot of things. And I just wanted to come into work and work. Just, you do what you're told, we do what we need to do, and we go home. I don't want to hear a bunch of complaining from the chief warrant officer. I don't want to hear about a bunch of extra stuff. I want to skate by for a little while. And it didn't happen. And it is what it is. But I just hate, because I think where I struggle the most out of all this is so many retired Marines. They just had that thing, I put it on my Instagram, about the Marine Corps going woke, and we acting a certain way, and we doing certain things. And I know how I was led. I got a lot of tough love, but at the end of the day, I knew those leaders would be there for me anytime I needed them. And so it's just tough for me. You know, I'll be honest, like, I felt like I did not know how to lead in Hawaii. I didn't. I was successful everywhere else, or at least I felt that I was, and my paperwork showed that I was. And my Marines from other places still talk to me, and everything seemed to be okay. But I got out there, and I mean, like I said, I had the personal issues, I had the professional issues, and I'm not trying to blame my mental illness, but I mean, I had a psychotic break out there too, you know? And sometimes that just kind of gets to me, you know, where it's like, oh, this just sounds like a lot of excuses. And I'm like, well, obviously I was feeling some type of way if I had a psychotic break. That's something you can't fake. You can fake a lot of things, but you can't fake that one. I'll tell you right now, you can't fake a psychotic break. I went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I did that shit twice out there. So, I mean, obviously I was just under so much going on. And I mean, I guess I got kind of island fever also. So there was all that went on. But the main thing is, I don't want to keep spinning my tires with this. You know, I don't want to keep being asked, like, you know, what happened, or what's the dirty details, or what's all this, you know? I don't want people to just keep trying to open up my closet and see what skeletons are there. Not that I'm so scared of exposing them. It's the fact of, do you want me then in turn to discuss what you were doing? You know? As I said, I say things and I fire and forget. So I don't know if I even said it just a moment ago in this video, because I started coughing, so I might have forgot if I've already said it. But then, like, another one, as far as walking into the post office. I walk into the post office and there's all these Marines doing McMap, and they're not my Marines. They're Marines from other shops. I'm like, what are we doing? We're doing I think it was like a green belt course. Doing a green belt course, stats aren't interesting. You know, with COVID, McMap has been canned, right? Yeah. Okay. Do not run the NavMac during the dates of it being canned. All right? I'm going to walk right back out of here and act like I saw nothing. But finish what you're doing. Whatever. I see nothing. I hear nothing. But just don't run the NavMac during this period, because how do you explain that to the command? Again, my thing is, in hindsight, burn them. Burn them. Should have wrote those Marines up. Should have wrote them up. I should have said screw training. Because to me, I was looking at it when they were doing that McMap. I was looking at it because I knew how bad I felt with everything being on lockdown. You know, these Marines wanted to train. These Marines wanted to do stuff, and they weren't having the opportunities because of COVID. So who was I to sit there and say, I mean, I get it. I should have enforced it because I was a staff NCO. But I was looking at the bigger picture, like, no, man, you guys got to blow off some steam. You got to do what you got to do. And, I mean, I'm glad that you were trying to help out other Marines despite the rules. But I should have burned them. Should have burned them. That is what I'm learning in hindsight. Should have burned them. Should have burned the whole place down. I'm the bad guy. And I'm going to be labeled the bad guy for a while. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for any of that. I'm just telling you my side of the story. So, You have your opinion of me, and that's fine. The most important is the people who actually literally know me. What do they think about me? The people that are willing to sit down kneecap to kneecap with me, what do they think about me? So that's what's most important to me. I am sorry if I ever did anything to you to feel some type of way, but it was never personal. It was always professional. And as I've said, my major issue, and the other reason why sometimes I hate talking about the case, is my issue wasn't so much about the Marines. The issue simply was I felt the command could handle that differently. And some people have come at me and said, oh, well, you're being wrong about that too. And I'm like, I mean, I look at the investigation. I got to watch the investigation, and I'm like, it's not even about the Marines screwing up. I mean, I believe it was the sergeant said it like, you know, he's discussing his marital issues. He's got problems. Like, he's dealing with all this. I mean, that to me is like a red flag if I'm a command member. Like, oh, pause, stop. You know, this guy's got a lot of personal issues. He's got a lot of this stuff going on. Let's sit him down and let's see what's going on. You know, not let's push even harder and, you know, just go high into the right with him. But I will wrap it up here and say some other things that kind of got to me, that I was confused by. I get kicked out of the post office, and then I get put into the COC for COVID. I now know the numbers. I know the units that are trying to, like, I basically have so much information in front of me, you know, where like I could do a lot of damage, I guess, with it. But they felt confident enough to put me in that position. You know, I knew the real COVID numbers. I knew, you know, the real issues going on. I knew if a unit lost a Marine for a couple hours, their accountability was off. All those things going on. And again, I was, you know, given all that information and put up there, and I got to see a lot of things on the command deck, and it's just like, okay, well, you know, if I'm as terrible as I am, I mean, is this really somewhere you want to put me? Because I could do a lot of damage if I start speaking my mouth and saying everything that I'm dealing with. Another one is the day I went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and actually had my mental breakdown. I was supposed to be one of the people in charge of the security detail for when the Commandant and the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps came to visit. The day before, I actually did the drive-through of their route and where they were going to go, and, you know, knowing all that information. So it's hard that, you know, these commands give you that type of responsibility, but then in turn say that obviously you're a piece of crap and we should knock you down. Also, I forgot to mention, when I got kicked out of the post office, I was the staff NCO that was part of the Combined Federal Campaign. And the Sergeant Major is like, you still gonna do it? I'm like, yeah, I'll still do it. I won an award for the battalion because I got more money donated to the battalion than the year before, yet we're in COVID. Like, I'm working my butt off. Like, I'm this Marine who's doing stuff, and again, screw you, you're out, you know? I mean, it is what it is. It's done, it's over. But it was frustrating. And it just never clicked and made sense to me. You know? And I mean, I walked out the door. I didn't get nothing. I don't even have a retirement certificate. I don't have any of that. I mean, it is what it is. But now it's about moving forward. And I'm really hoping that that's what we can all do, is move forward. And I just don't want to keep opening up Pandora's box, and I don't want to keep discussing more and more of the issues that went down. But I do have my rebuttal somewhere on X, which used to be Twitter, on one of my posts. I mentioned my statements and I have that there. So happy hunting. You can go look there, see what you see. All right. But thanks for listening. Peace.